Hey there, everyone. If you're tuning in, we appreciate you joining us. I'm joined today by Jeff Kimmel, not brother to Jimmy Kimmel.
Distant cousin. Maybe.
Distant cousin.
Maybe.
So as everybody's tuning in, feel free to ask questions as we go along. We will answer a couple questions that I have for Jeff here first, and then we will get your questions towards the end. So please ask any questions you have as we go through this, and I'm sure Jeff will be happy to answer you and do his best. So Jeff, thank you so much for coming on the show with me and talking to us today.
Thank you, Kevin. Happy Tuesday. It's a great day here. It's a great day here in New York. It's about 50 degrees. We've been sub-freezing for many days in a row. So it's beautiful. Great day for a podcast. Great day for a
good day for a podcast. This is the Managing Partners podcast. The Ray Digital, we focus on working with law firms, primarily for digital marketing, and we love to learn as much as we can from people like yourself running law firms. The more we know, the better job we can do. Let's just create good content, and based on what I've seen from you and your background, we're going to learn a lot today. So I'm excited about that. Here in Virginia, it is actually, I was very confused this morning. I went to the gym at 4:45 a.m.
Wow.
And I was like, I had a sweatshirt on, all covered up, and it was 62 degrees outside.
No way.
So I was, it's been just not as cold as New York, but it's been very cold and just wet and nasty. So that's a good change. I don't think it's going to stay there very long. So
no.
So I think tomorrow's going to be back in the 30s.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So let's get started. So quick introduction to yourself, and really want to hear about you personally first. Kind of who you are, what you're up to, what you like to do, and a little background there. A 1 minute, and then we'll ask some questions about the firm and the practice areas that you guys focus on.
Sure. So my firm is Salenger, Kimmel, and Bavaro. I guess personally, I could give you my educational background. I feel like it's a deposition here, but we'll start out with education. I went to
GPA.
So for college, I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I was in the Wharton Business School, the undergraduate program. Graduated and went to Brooklyn Law School. And from there, my first job was in the Bronx District Attorney's Office. So got my experience in the courtroom trying cases. From there, I went to an insurance defense firm that specialized in medical malpractice defense work. So that's where I gained my experience on that end of things, because that's a big part of my business now. That was the defense side. And I was there for a brief time and then came to the firm I'm at now. So I've been at this firm for about 25 years. I've been the managing partner for about 5 years. And I guess in my personal life, I used to think my personal life.
Well, it kind of is tied together when you run a business.
Yeah, absolutely. I used to think my personal life and my private life were separate. But I don't feel that way anymore. I don't think that way anymore. I recently got married, and I met her as my girlfriend about 5 years ago, and it was about the same time that I became managing partner. So it was a coincidence, or maybe it wasn't a coincidence, because she has her own business. She's a life coach, but it's really a lifestyle brand and a philosophy that she teaches about how to love life and how to be happy. And it really did change my way of thinking. So now, whether I'm home, whether I'm at work, I have the same attitude. I'm happy. My outlook is optimistic, and I try and be just me, really, in every aspect of my life. And we ultimately recently did write a book together. We can talk about that now. We could talk about it later. But it combines both of our professions, our philosophies, and and we recently got married. And one of the first things we did was write a book.
Well, that's pretty. Well, congratulations, first off.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's great. I'm just hit 10 years of marriage last year, and we haven't killed each other yet, so that's good. We did not write a book though. So that's pretty amazing. So you get married and then boom, let's write a book. So, and it sounds like that's really worked out well as far as her background.
Yeah.
When you met her and what you're doing, because running a business and especially a law firm can be stressful, right? It's a lot on you. A lot, it's
Yes. And that topic is so current now in the law. In the law journal, almost every day or every week, there are articles about mental health and how it needs to be addressed better in the legal profession. So not just for managing partners, for all lawyers in big firms, small firms, the pressure and the anxiety and depression that we hear about is something that's being focused on and looked at. And my wife does work with lawyers as well, dealing with those kinds of things. And we didn't write the book right away. It's been going on for a while. It took about a year, but because of COVID, we were able to actually finish it. And it's really just, yeah, definitely. I mean, during COVID, I got engaged. We wrote a book, and then I got married all during COVID. So it was good for us. We were able to combine both of our skills, and it didn't start out that way. I started out writing the book. I wasn't. I didn't think I was going to be managing partner of a firm. That wasn't my dream or goal. It wasn't something I ever thought about. But the circumstances became such that I became the managing partner. And at the time when it happened, I embraced it, and it was a learning experience, but it's been terrific. And what I found was, nobody really taught me how to do this, and nobody really prepared me how to do this. And law school teaches you a lot of things, but there aren't many courses about how to run a business and the financials and the responsibilities and the supervising and the managing and the dealing with the people and everyone else's problems. There are no courses on that. And so after doing this for several years, I thought, wow, there's really a book here. There's really something I can do and share with other lawyers and really anybody who's looking to run a business. And I started writing it, and then I thought, I would talk to Connie. My wife's Connie Henriquez Kimmel, and I would talk to her about it. And I said, there's really a lot here that you can add to, because for every topic I wanted to cover about how to run your own business or manage a firm, there's a mental aspect to it that really needs to be addressed. Because as much as you may know how to do stuff, you really have to have the attitude, the mental, not toughness, but the mental capacity and to deal with all the stress and anxiety, because there's a lot of it. And so the idea was, I said, okay, for every chapter I write, you comment about, what you think about the mental aspect of that and what people need to know and how to prepare and how to live while you're doing all this stuff. So it just sort of happened that way. And when we had the time to finish it, we were able to finish it.
Well, that's really cool. Because if I was writing a book, and my business partner, Eric, just came out with the book, which is going to be available soon, on building building a company up to $1 million in revenue, and how long it took him to do that, and what we've learned, and me and him kind of hit that milestone together. But he's written his book on his journey, and obviously he didn't have someone like her to be like, well, okay, you're talking about this piece, or push hard here, or do this crazy thing here. You don't think about all the other impacts of it. So that's actually really unique, I think, with your book. Whereas if you didn't know her or have her, then it'd probably be a different book completely, right? It'd be kind of boring, maybe. I think it'd have good stuff in there, but I think her element really adds something that, I don't know of any other book that has that sort of mix to it. And like I said, in the law, that this is really current stuff. And so, and arguably, what she says is more important than what I say, because what she says, applies to life, not just to law. And she has her own business, and she doesn't just work with lawyers. So it works for every aspect of life, but it also works for lawyers and people looking to manage and supervise people. Well, that's great. I mean, I like your outlook and all that stuff. And I try to be that. I'm always, can't get me down. Always try to be positive about everything. And that's just me. Where a lot of people that I know are stressed about everything. And, I just have never gotten into that, but I can see that if that was you, and it's hard for me to relate, I guess, to that. But So that's really cool that it has that spin on it, because I doubt anyone's going to find anything like that on the shelf. So if you're listening, tuning in, future lawyers, listen to this. You definitely want to check this book out. So let's get a few other questions quickly, and then I think we circle back around to the book.
Of course.
Tell us the name of the book, where to find it, all that good stuff at the end here, and we'll post some links as well.
Okay.
In some of this here, and we'll be sharing this for weeks to come. So don't worry about that. So tell us a little bit about your firm, just so we know, like, what your focus, I guess, the expertise areas are. I don't, as far as all the practice areas that you guys cover, just the main ones. I think is good, so we get a sense of what your firm does, and who they work with. Give some context for our listeners, and then from there we'll go into some other questions about, kind of future with the firm.
Sure. So we are pretty much exclusively a plaintiff's personal injury firm, and we represent accident victims, people who have been in any kind of accidents, whether it's construction accidents, motor vehicle accidents, slip and falls. And really what makes us different, and our point of difference in the field really is the medical malpractice, accidents and negligence by doctors and hospitals is a big part of our practice. We have a pretty significant medical malpractice caseload right now. It's probably about 125 or so active cases, which is a lot for medical malpractice cases. And I can say we've pretty much handled every possible medical malpractice case that you could imagine. There are many. I mean, there's a lot of different areas of medicine, and a lot of them repeat. There are cases that we see over and over. Failure to diagnose breast cancer, failure to diagnose any kind of cancer really is a popular area. Orthopedic cases are difficult, but they're popular. But that part of it is what sets us apart. There are a lot of, I'm in New York. There are more lawyers per person or per capita, or whatever you want to call it, in New York than in any other place in the world. So there's a lot of lawyers. There's a lot of competition in every field, and personal injury is certainly no different. But for us, that medical malpractice aspect of it makes us different. And in the book, even I talk about how important it is to have a niche, and I think that's our niche. We have expanded a little bit, but naturally expanded. So we have now a couple of attorneys that do guardianship work and work in surrogates court. Turns out a lot of our cases involve people who've passed away. So those are wrongful death cases, and those cases end up in surrogates court. And then if there are infants in New York, if you're under 18, you're considered an infant. But the important part of that is if the case settles and you're an infant, you have to get court approval. So that's sort of tied to the guardianship type work. So we've expanded a little bit, and we do that. We used to farm that stuff out, but now so we do it in-house.
Is that kind of dipping into like almost like family type law, kind of custody and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, not custody, but it's more guardianship stuff. When somebody in the family is elderly or mentally incapacitated in some way, or disabled in some way, and victims of negligence happen to be in that category. So we need to say it's somebody who doesn't have a guardian, and for whatever purpose in the law they need to have a guardian appointed. And there are different kinds of guardians. It gets really confusing, but that's why these two attorneys we have now are expert in this, and we can get that aspect of the case up and running and completed in a more efficient way, handling it in-house. But it still all centers around the personal injury and the medical malpractice work.
Excellent. Okay, that's great. So, do you practice outside of the city of New York?
Yes. Well, we have cases in every borough. We have offices in New York County, Manhattan. We have office in Brooklyn. Our main office is in Woodbury in Nassau County. We have cases in all the counties in New York City and the surrounding counties. And we actually have a lot of cases upstate as well. My partner, Joe Bavaro, has a lot of contacts up in Putnam County and in Kingston, which is Rockland County, and all different counties we've been to. We get most of our cases from referring attorneys. So wherever those referring attorneys are, and however we know them, we end up there. We tried a couple of cases last year in Ithaca,
Oh,
2 years ago. Last year's sort of just the blip, but recently we've been up and tried cases in the outer boroughs. So in New York, we'll go anywhere. We could try a case anywhere.
excellent. That's really cool. So next question is regarding just trends that you see coming that may impact your all's business, your either individual practice areas or as a whole. That could be economic, it could be technology, or it could be maybe legislative. But is there anything that you see coming? Well, this could be negatively or positively, but is there anything that you're kind of got your eyes on the radar for what might impact you guys?
Well, legislatively, that affects us the most, but thankfully it's quiet at the moment.
Okay.
So there's not much going on. There was some medical malpractice reform that was in the news many years ago, and that has not been discussed. So that's fine. Really, the biggest impact for now and for the foreseeable future is really technology. Technology, with COVID has forced the courts into the 21st century. And I'll tell you, the New York courts were way behind in technology before COVID, in a huge way. Just having this virtual podcast would have been unthinkable in the courts. But now, because of COVID, the courts are conducting virtual everything. They have virtual conferences. We have virtual depositions. We have virtual settlement hearing conferences. We have mediations, trials. I really don't know what's been going on with actual trials being done remotely. That's a whole separate issue, which has a big impact on my business. But short of trials, everything now in the courts is virtual, and they've come up to speed in a real hurry technologically. So now everything is electronically filed through e-filing. Only recently
that's amazing to me. But
yeah, I mean, honestly, we would have to file real, paper motions that were a stack of papers had to be carried and delivered to the court. Only until very recently. But now e-filing is now everywhere, or done for everything, which is terrific. And there's no paper needed, and the judges have laptops on the bench, and they're now well versed in Zoom or whatever it is that we're using now, Microsoft Teams. But not just the courts, just the business itself, the fact that we can conduct depositions remotely. Honestly, the biggest thing for us personally has been DocuSign, and the ability to have clients sign a retainer remotely. That for me, that was unheard of. I had my emergency suit in the office, and if we had to go run out and sign up a case because of the competitiveness of our industry, when there's a good case to be had, you need to get there and get it signed up. Now, we meet the client virtually. We do it through Zoom or whatever platform. And we send a DocuSign, and they read it, they check boxes, and all of a sudden we have a signed retainer, within an hour. That was a game changer for us.
So absolutely, and that's what we've been using for quite a while. We use another company called HelloSign, very similar. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're having to do the same thing, all virtually, whether it's with sales, prospects, sign a new contract, all that stuff is all virtual now. So so I know the courts are behind, and we subscribe to Virginia Law, Lawyers Weekly in Virginia here. Okay. I know some of the courts are just getting open and just approving to do trials, and so everyone was way behind.
Yeah.
How prepared were you guys for that transition? When it happened, I guess.
Well, I got to tell you, it's a very interesting story. I have an IT person who has been my most valuable employee over the last couple of years, and before COVID, but just before COVID, I'm talking about a month before we knew about COVID. My IT person happens to be from Taiwan, and he has relatives in Taiwan. And in February of last year, he came to me and said, listen,
Oh, wow.
we need to get everybody a VPN. I said, what the hell's a VPN? And basically it's just a portal
Why?
that a portal that you could use from home to log into your desktop, and you don't have to leave home to go to work. And I said, why do we have to do that? He said, there's this virus that's going to be very bad. And I said, what are you talking about? How do you, what do you, this is before anybody knew anything. And this
Wow.
it's a crazy story. And he said, we have to do it. And whenever my IT person tells me we have to do something, we do it. And we had 25 VPN licenses before the word COVID was even uttered,
Wow.
in New York. And, and the price was whatever the price was. And it went up tenfold when other firms had to look into getting it. So we were prepared. We were as prepared, if not more than any other firm I know. Everybody has been able to, work remotely from day one, and we were ready. So
get that guy.
Person. That your first job is managing partner. Make sure you have a good IT person.
That's the first chapter in the book, I guess. You get that guy a bonus or something, man.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully he's not watching this. No, I'm kidding. He's terrific.
So interesting for us. I mean, we had, we felt some impact pretty much right away with clients, depending on what kind of client they were. But we personally we were already doing this. We have, we had some employees that were remote. So even if we were in the office, we'd have our video chat open with other employees every morning to do the daily huddles I mentioned earlier.
Oh, that's great.
And so we were already, and if I had to stay home for some reason, I would do this and have chats with my team. So for us, it was seamless. There was no concern or issue at all. So, it was easy for us, but I could imagine it being very difficult for others to kind of get, and I know it was a scramble. I've talked to a lot of people that were just scrambling, trying to get things figured out. And I should have bought more Zoom stock when I knew about this. Yeah, get your IT guy in on that one.
Yeah, that and the Peloton. So, the other thing about the technology, I just want to mention, this is really important. What I've found to be incredibly helpful as the managing partner is the case management software. Now, for personal injury firms, there are a lot of choices now. When I was a younger attorney, we didn't do anything electronically, but for me, the case management software has been invaluable. And for me, I'll say in my practice, the toughest thing that I have as the managing partner of a plaintiff's personal injury firm is how do you measure the efficiency of the lawyers? And that's always the challenge for me. I want the lawyers to be working to their maximum, to their potential. And I'm busy, they're busy. It's how do you measure performance of any attorney really? But for the plaintiff side, it's particularly challenging. And that's because if you look at the defense side, the people that we try cases against, the insurance defense firms, those businesses are completely different than our business. It's like a whole other industry, because what they're doing on the defense side is they bill hourly. Like most law firms in most industries, they bill hourly. And so how do you measure someone's performance? Well, at the end of the year, you say, how many hours did they work? And that's going to be the basis for their bonus or the raise that they're going to get. And, it's in the computer. How many hours did they work? Was it 2,000 hours, 2,200 hours, 18, whatever it is. And that's an easy number. Of course, the quality of the work comes into play. But I'm just saying, like, as a starting point, that's terrific. We don't have a starting point like that. On the plaintiff side, we don't bill. We work on a contingency fee. And that means, we don't get money until a case settles. And we don't know when a case is going to settle. So we have to, every 2 weeks, pay everybody. Everybody is, going to get paid every 2 weeks, no matter what. But we may not have settled as many cases this month as we did the month before. We just don't know. And that's why we get lines of credit, because cash flow for any plaintiff's firm is always an issue. So One of the first things you want to do too, if you're going to be your own boss, is go to the bank and get a line of credit, because when your cash flow is not consistent, and if you were on the other side, the insurance defense firms, they have contracts with insurance companies and with governments to say, okay, we're going to get you 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 cases a month. And you could rely on knowing that you're going to have people to bill those files. You're going to make enough money to meet payroll, usually. For us, it's a real uncertainty. It's a real unknown. And when those big checks come in, you have to be disciplined enough to put them away, because there's always ebbs and flows as far as cash flow in the plaintiff's firm. So, the case management software allows me to better evaluate how the lawyers are doing, with these metrics and graphs and charts and all these things that are at my fingertips. I can figure out, I can see, attorney caseloads, the exact kinds of case they have, the exact status of any particular case or all the cases, settlements that are outstanding, that we don't have the money, but we're going to get the money. Sometimes we can get the money in 3 weeks. Sometimes we're not going to get the money for 6 months. If it's a case that involves, we talked about this before, a death case or an infant's case, we need court approval. So even though the case settled in January, we have to now go to a surrogate's court and get approval. That's going to take 6 months. So, the case is over. Everybody celebrates that we settled the case in January. We have a party, but don't spend the money, because we're not going to get the money until June, if we're lucky. So it's that kind of uncertainty that makes it difficult to manage the cash and to meet the, always coming around the corner payroll that everybody, expects.
Exactly.
Of course.
Well, so basically what you're saying, technology is very powerful and important, and data. If you don't have the data at your fingertips at all times, then you're going to lose track or lose sight and not know what really is going on with your business. Yeah, so I think that's very important.
Yeah, but let me caution: these programs are all terrific. They probably have 75% more than what we actually use it for. But as helpful as it is, the biggest challenge that I find is the people who are inputting the information have to put the right information in the right boxes. Because if you don't put the information in the right boxes, when I run the program and try and get the information, it's not going to be accurate. If everyone uses the system differently, and that's the problem I have with my staff, we have to continuously, train and retrain. This is where this information goes. If I want to have an emailing list of all my clients, you got to put the email address in the same box. If
you say crap in, crap out. So
yeah. So the data is only as good as the people putting it in.
So if any of your staff is listening, the smart ones will go. The smart ones will say, "All right, I'm listening to you," and then they'll have all their stuff together. But as having processes and following them and having procedures, that's been huge for us and helpful. But if you got that process and you follow it, everyone puts the right data in, then it can be powerful, and that's very important for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So, as far as it sounds like you guys have done a great job. You're way ahead on COVID, which is sounds like you just had you had some inside knowledge, which is great. What is the software you guys use for your case?
We use TrialWorks.
TrialWorks. Okay. I'm not familiar with a lot of them, honestly. So TrialWorks sounds like you guys approve of that. It's been working well for you.
It works. It works for us, but there are other programs that other people use that work just as well. Like I said, I think we're using probably 20% of what TrialWorks can do, but that's all we need it for.
That's another thing that we run into too. We always want better software, and a lot of my team members are like, "Hey, we need this and we need that," and look at what we have and say, "We're not even using half the stuff on this, and we're not going to invest in this other software until we really see that there's a reason and a struggle, and this is holding us back." And what we find is usually there's nothing really there, and that we don't need that software. So it's always important to go, okay, why do we need it? Let's look at it. And then we always come to the conclusion, not always, but most of the time, that it's not necessary right now. So
Right.
yeah, you don't want to go overboard and be an early adopter on everything and jump into different softwares without the real need for it.
Right.
So just going to cause headaches and more work for everybody.
Yes.
So, all right, last question, and then we'll get to your book.
Okay.
Where are you taking the firm? What's your plans? Do you have a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year? Do you kind of have that mapped out? You have a vision for that? And if you do, sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because COVID changed things, and again in a good way for us, because it forced me to really rethink the whole business model. Up until COVID, we were trending bigger. Every year for the past 10 years, we added people, we added employees, we merged with a firm, we hired more staff. And it was with this goal to be a bigger firm, to be a big plaintiff's personal injury firm. And we figured more people, more attorneys, we'll get more business, we'll have more cases, we'll make more money. And, with COVID, everything changed. We had to let people go, people left, and we're probably half the size we were before COVID. And what I've learned is that bigger is not necessarily better when it comes to business. And with COVID, we were forced to really streamline our practices, utilize technology in ways that we hadn't thought were possible, take advantage of the case management software, like I said, to improve our practices, and also change job descriptions. So people's responsibilities sort of got combined, but we're still being efficient. And, in my firm, I will say that everybody stepped up to the plate and just knocked it out of the park with the work effort, the cooperation, the helping each other out. And, the staff we have now is wonderful. And so we're no longer looking bigger. We're looking to be more efficient. And we're looking, we are looking to add back some, but certainly not what we had. So it's really just about becoming more efficient and maximizing the cases we have. And this is another subject, but we've really also streamlined the cases that we take. We are a lot more selective in the cases we take. And looking at the value and the time spent on smaller cases versus bigger cases, there's a big discrepancy. So there's much more value in taking the bigger cases and maximizing those and spending the time and the effort. We've learned that from the staff's perspective, the time spent on the smaller cases and the time spent on the larger cases is the same. The paperwork that has to be filed, and the records that have to be requested, and all the work that has to be done doesn't matter if the case is worth $50,000 or $500,000. It's the same amount of work. So, that's going to be driving where we go with our business model.
I love that. So basically getting your average case size up, right? So we're very similar. We started out doing stuff for small companies, small jobs, and we've slowly just sliced off, pushed out of the way. And we've slowly kind of pushed up our minimum that we'll work with, because exactly every client that we sign puts the same amount of pressure and work on my whole operations team,
right?
Whether they're paying $1,000 or they're spending $25,000 a month, it's the same for the most part. And usually the person that spends $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month guards that money more than the $25,000 a month clients, because they're smaller, they don't have budgets, they don't have systems in place, and they can't really, I guess, comprehend spending that amount every month. So yeah, same problems here, but that's exactly our goal, is to grow smart, efficiently, not necessarily adding people every time we need something done. So, we try to put that in the culture, and it sounds like you've done a good job. It sounds like you guys come out stronger and better on the other side. So, painful, not fun. No one wants to have to go through that, but it sounds like it's something that is transform your business in a positive light. So
yes.
So good on the staff you guys have there now, and hopefully the future bodes well. So that's good.
For sure.
All right. Let's real quick. Your book. I want to
Okay.
know. Tell us the title, where to find it, anything else about it, and we'll share some links to it as well here once I repost this.
Sure. So the book is What Lawyers Don't Know: How to Run a Business and Start Loving Life. And the title really links into my wife's business. The title or the name of her business or her philosophy is Start Loving Life, and she's had that business for many years now. And that's the business that actually published the book, Start Loving Life. And it's available on Amazon.
Okay.
Yeah, and you can find the links in all my social media. What's interesting, actually, we just finished the audiobook. We did not do that originally, and so now the audiobook has been finished. It's uploaded, but it's being analyzed now by Amazon for whatever. It takes about 30 days for it to get up on the site. And what we did with the audiobook is we added a bonus chapter. We had been getting a lot of feedback from the book and some questions from young lawyers and law students. So we added a bonus chapter answering some of those questions. So when the audio book becomes available, that'll be something to listen to.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm gonna check that out for sure. So I go back and I'll read I'm trying to read 2 books a month at least, but I'll read one and I'll listen to more. So I'll get 1 or 2 in, physically reading, but I have a lot of time, the gym or driving, where I can get a lot of audiobooks in. So I'll definitely check that out. I did post the link in the channel if anyone's watching.
Great.
Right to Amazon, so you can check the book out. So please check out Jeff's book, and we'll be sharing more about this too. And then I look forward to checking it out myself. We do have a question that came in a little bit ago from Jerry Daisy. Obviously, my last name's Daisy, and me and Jerry, I think, have some distant relation, but never knew him otherwise until LinkedIn we connected. So Jerry says, Jeff, how much future exposure do we as business owners have due to COVID moving forward, as you can follow every federal guideline and still have someone exposed? Thank you.
Well, that's a good question, and I don't know that anyone knows the answer to that yet. There's regulations.
Hardball, Jerry.
Yeah, no, there's so much unknown and uncertainty going forward that nobody really knows where liability and exposure is going to be. And not to change the subject, Jerry, this is relevant. In my business, the governor in New York issued an executive order that there's a new standard against doctors during COVID. It's not negligence, it's recklessness, which means that you have to prove that the doctor was more than negligent. That these are legal terms, but it's harder, much harder, almost impossible to prove a case against the doctor because of this executive order. Now, there are questions: was the governor even able to make that kind of order? Is that going to hold up if that order is questioned in the courts? But take that and move it to your question, which is how much exposure is there for business owners? And what I imagine you're asking is, employees who contracted the virus, who spread the virus, customers who got it. I see a lot of problems being able to prove exactly where someone got the virus. I have not taken any cases, any COVID cases. I've been asked about a lot of them. I've investigated some. But I just think it's too uncertain, and I don't think it's going to be easy at all, or possible even. It's not going to be impossible, but it's going to be very difficult to link someone's contracting the virus to a doctor or a job or a workplace or something like that. And so, as future owners, what I guess what I would advise is to follow the protocols that are out there now. Stay current with what they say you need to post in your offices about COVID, and have your HR person, if you have that, or just have the communication lines open to your staff and keep them informed about people who have symptoms, people who are quarantining, how long people have to quarantine for. Just get these protocols in writing, get them posted in the workplace, and just stay current with what the science and the medical experts are saying we need to do to fight the virus.
Yeah, I think that's a good response. It's kind of hard to say, but if you're trying to do the best you can, you're trying to follow the guidelines the best you can while still, like curveball. Exactly right, Jerry. Come on now. And then he says, but yeah, I mean, it's really all you can do. But you're trying to run a business. I mean, some of these businesses have to have patrons coming in. Where my business, we're fortunate where we just said, everyone go work from home. That's it. We're good to go. And then for like my sales teams and people that like to go, walk into an office and sell that way, it was like virtual only. Don't go meet with anybody. They can, but we did not encourage it or, say, hey, you got to go do this. So for us, it was very simple and easy. But for some of these businesses, yeah, it's got to be difficult, and I mean, just a lot of effort. Have to clean things every time someone walks in and out, and so it's got to be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate, but you think about restaurants and those kinds of businesses, it's very, very, very difficult.
But nice thing you said though is it would be difficult to prove that I went into your place of business and got it because of you and your negligence of keeping your business, sanitary. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, in a court of law at a trial, these are burdens, but you don't even want to get there. As an employer, you want to nip these things in the bud and not even have people making these claims. So yeah, it's tough to follow the guidelines because they're changing, and they're going to keep changing. So just stay on top of it and do what you need to do, or do what you think is right for as long as we can, and hopefully it'll end soon.
Well, Jerry, thanks for your question. Jeff, I guess that wraps it up. I'm actually, interestingly enough, I'm going snowboarding this weekend. So I'm going to get a COVID test in just a few minutes here, just to make sure it's safe for the guys that'll be joining me. So we just have a few of us meeting up to go snowboarding. So taking every precaution we can. So when we go meet, that we're safe and everyone's good to go. So
that sounds fun. You're going to have snow in this 60-degree weather?
Well, I'm actually, I'll be going to West Virginia.
Okay.
By the time we get there, I think the high is like 20 some degrees, and it's going to be snowing. So we should be good, but we'll see. So enjoy the nice weather today, and then I'll be ready for the snow. So
excellent. Sounds fun.
Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you having coming on with me. Everyone, check out Jeff's book. I put the link in the post here. So check that out, and I'll be looking for the audio. So if you could email me, email me when that's ready. I'm going to go get that right away. I have a bunch of credits to get through. So
cool.
Yeah. So any final words before we sign off?
Well, start loving life. I mean, that's what it's all about. Everyone, should be happy and optimistic, and everything works out. Everything always works out.
Just smile. Happy you woke up today, and hopefully put a smile on someone else's face, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Kevin.